Good morning, everyone. In the previous session of Global HRD, I explained about the various benefits and limitations. Now, these limitations actually reduces the effectiveness or its importance in an organization. So, in the last session, I discussed about these two topics. And in today's session, I am going to explain or I am going to start a completely new topic that is called human resource models. Human resource management models, or you can also call it as HRM models. Now these HRM models play a very important role in HRD also, because if an organization does not have a strong HRM aspect, it cannot create a effective and efficient human resource development program. So for the effectiveness and for the better contribution of HRD towards the organization, that needs to be a strong and a very effective HRM aspect. Okay, and first of all, I am going to explain today what is HRM models, why it is created, and then I am going to explain about the various models of HRM. Okay, so let us start with the meaning and the basic purpose of HRM models. So why HRM models are actually created, first of all. So basically what happened, different scholars, different authors, they actually have disagreement regarding the meaning of HRM, the different features, characteristics, elements of HRM. They had different kinds of aspects. Every scholar has different aspect, different meaning for HRM. And for that purpose, they created different models stating their actual meaning regarding HRM. What are the components, what are the different elements they actually think are part of HRM. So HRM models are considered to be very important because it helps an organization to understand the importance of HRM and which HRM model they actually accept within the organization. Okay, so because of this kind of disagreement and debate, different models are created by various authors. So these every model is we can say different from the other model, because every model includes the point of view and opinion of the scholar who has created the model. They create the model according to their point of view, according to their understanding, and what kind of importance, what level of importance they give to human resource management within an organization. So the first aspect of HRM model, it is as you all can see that HRM models explain the fundamental traits of HRM. Traits means the characteristics and feature, the meaning aspect of HRM. What are the elements which are part of HRM? What are the constituents of HRM? So they explain different traits, different elements, different characteristics of HRM. So in the second point, as you can see that it is an analytical framework for studying HRM. Now this framework explains about the various aspects of HRM, various we can say like HR policies, HR practices. These are the various aspects of HR. So it actually establishes, or we can say that it actually has mentioned the various variables and parts of HRM and how they are related to each other, how they're interconnected and dependent on each other. So here they have explained various variables of HRM and how they are created and how they are related to each other and what type of relationship one variable of HRM shares with the other variable of HRM. And the last point here, it also says that even if HRM consists of various aspects, various variables, it is still highly influenced by the various environmental factors. Now, basically, these environmental factors are external environmental factors like legal environment of the country, political environment, rules and regulations, economic factors, technological environment. These different environments has major influence on the human resource management. So here HRM model focuses on each and every aspect of HRM, internal as well as external factors, what kind of contribution and influence they have on HRM, and they have mentioned about the various elements, various variables of human resource management. Now let us discuss what are the basic purpose due to which HRM models are created. So the first purpose here, it says that provides analytical framework with it, which means establishing and identification of various variables, establishing proper relationship between the variables, and the extent to which each variable affect or influence the other variable. That is the analytical framework. What are the various types of variables, how they are related to each other, and what kind of relationship they share with each other. That is the first purpose behind the creation of HRM models. Now the second point is legitimizing the certain HRM practices. Now what does HRM practice actually means? Certain policies, certain rules and regulation. See, creation of rules and policies are not very important, but how they are created, what are the aspects they have covered while creating these policies and strategies. I'll give an example. Every organization has training, selection, performance appraisal, job evaluation, various aspects. But they need to have a distinctive approach towards these different elements. See, whatever selection method, whatever training program, whatever performance appraisal method is followed by major companies, by big companies, we cannot simply copy that. We have to create, we have to understand the requirement of the organization and create a distinctive and different HR practices, HR models, HR policies for the organization. For that, we need to understand what is the vision, mission of an organization, why this organization is actually created, what are the things which the organization is supposed to achieve, and then create an HR policy to help the organization to achieve its objectives. So here, legitimizing certain HRM practices means creating a distinctive approach, creating a distinctive system from the other organization, from the other companies. So we have to first of all focus on creating a different and distinctive approach regarding HRM. So the third purpose in behind the creation of HRM model is provide characterization of human resource management. So I'll add one more point. So in the first point, I mentioned about providing analytical framework. Now this analytical framework here also includes the HR strategies, HR policies, stakeholders' interest, different situational factors which actually affect human resource management. So all those things are part of analytical framework. Not only the variables are also part of the HRM models, but the various factors like HR practices, HR policies, HR strategies, situational factors which influence HRM, and stakeholders' interest. There are many stakeholders which have benefits from an organization, their interest and other elements. So these together create an analytical framework. Now let us discuss the third purpose behind the creation of HRM model. The third purpose here says that provides characterization of HRM. So in this point, it clearly says that let us find out the various variables which has influence in the influence on HRM. What are the constituents of HRM? What are the different elements? What kind of relationship they share with each other? How, to what extent they are dependent on each other, to what extent they are related to each other. So that is the third purpose behind the study of or behind the creation of HRM models. Characterization, finding out different variables, finding out or establishing relationship between them, and also finding out the extent to which they are interdependent and interrelated to each other. Now let us discuss the fourth reason or the fourth purpose of creation of HRM model. Now the fourth purpose here says that it serves as an aid to learning. Now here learning and also discovering also. So here in this aspect, it has clearly explained that the organization needs to learn and discover various different techniques of solving problems, various different methods of creating HR policies, HR strategies, which will result in obtaining the outcome which is required by the organization, which will help us to obtain a result which is expected by the organization. So here it simply says that we need to learn and we need to discover various techniques, various aspects through which we can create such kind of HR policies and strategies which will actually help the organization to achieve its objectives. So these HRM models actually serve as an aid. They help us in finding various problem solving techniques, various methods for the betterment of the human resource working in the organization, as well as for the benefit of the organization itself. So these are the basic purpose because of which HRM models were created. Now let us discuss about the various HRM models. Now overall I am going to explain around 5 important HRM models. And the first one which I am going to explain is the Harvard HRM model or the Harvard model. Now this model was created by Michael Beer in the year 1984 when he was part of Harvard University. Now, Michael Beer was a member of Harvard School of HRM, and with him there were other 2 members also. Those are Richard Walton and Bert Spector. These 3 are considered to be the founding fathers of HRM. They have actually laid down the basic meaning, concept of HRM, how the human resource needs to be treated within the organization. So this model was created in the year 1984, and it is an analytical approach to HRM. Means it clearly says that we have to understand what is HRM, why it is necessary for the organization. We have to find out the various elements and characteristics of HRM in order to implement it in a better way. So it is a very analytical approach, and it also emphasizes on the human side of HRM. Human side of HRM means it focuses on the aspect that human resource are the assets of an organization. Like in my previous session, I have already said that human resource were considered to be like any other resource of the organization, like material, machinery, or whatever are the other resources. They used to be treated in that way. They didn't have any kinds of right. They were exploited, and they didn't have any their opinions, their welfare was not considered by any organization. But after Industrial Revolution, all these things changed. Human resource was considered to be an important resource. They were treated like an asset, and it is still in an evolving process. That is how to give more and more benefit towards the human resource, because the actual success of the organization depends upon the human resource, because they are the people behind the organization, working in the organization, utilizing various aspects, various other factors of production in an effective way. So human resource needs to be considered as an asset, which is the basic point of this Harvard model. So Michael Beer has actually emphasized on the human side of HRM, which means treating human resource like an asset, like an important aspect of an organization. See, Michael Beer has also focused on other aspects like HR policies and HR practices. Now, these policies and practices are created in order to represent how HR is going to be treated within the organization, what kind of rules and regulations we have for the human resource, what kind of beneficial aspect we have for the human resource. So it also focused on creation of HR policies and HR practices. Now it has also mentioned that there is an existence of multiple stakeholders. Now multiple stakeholders means, first of all, let me explain the meaning of stakeholder. Now stakeholder here means the parties which have certain kind of benefit from an organization. So like employees are part of an organization, and they want the organization to survive, to grow and become successful, so that they won't lose their job. So that is one stakeholder. Other stakeholders are the public or the customers who actually consume the products. So like this, there are many stakeholders like employees, the suppliers, the consumers, government, society as a whole. So these are the stakeholders, and they have to consider the interest of these stakeholders also, or else other parties, these parties won't be satisfied with the operations and executions of an organization. Now it also focuses on the decision making process, decision regarding HR policies, HR practices, and what kind of consequence it will have on the entire organization and the human resource working within the organization. So it not only focuses on creation of policies and strategies, HR policies and strategies, but it also focuses on the consequences of creating such kind of policies and strategies. Now here you can see that the last one here says that without strategic vision, HRM remains independent. Now HRM needs to have certain kind of vision on the basis of which proper practices and policies can be created. So without proper vision, HRM actually remains independent with its own policy, which is with its own kind of approach. So it actually requires certain kind of strategic vision in order to create certain HR policies which would prove beneficial for the employees and which would also prove beneficial for the organization also. Now there is another aspect here, says that HRM must be considered as a long-term approach. Now take example of the workforce of an organization. You cannot treat them well for a certain time period, for 1 month or 2 months. No, they needs to be properly treated for a long time period till the existence of the organization. So HRM is considered to be a long-term approach. That's why they have to focus more on HR policies, HR strategies, treating human resource as an important asset of an organization. Okay. Now let us discuss the basic characteristics of Harvard model. Now basically Harvard model has two important features or two important characteristics. First one here says that the line manager actually have more responsibility than it actually represents. Now they are the people behind the creation of HR policies, HR strategies. They need to understand the requirement of the organization. They need to understand the requirement of the workforce working within the organization, and then create such kind of policies which is not going to help the organization, but it is equally going to benefit the human resource also. Now the second characteristics feature say that personnel function sets the policy. Means the people who are part of the personnel department, they set the policy by keeping in mind various aspects of the organization, and they are supposed to create policies which are not contradictory, which are not in contrast with each other. To some extent they are similar to the organization. They are going along with the policies and strategies of the organization, so that it will prove beneficial for the organization as well as the employees. So now let us discuss the various components of Harvard model. Now in this chart, you can clearly see that there are basically 5 important components of Harvard model. Now there is another component also which was added later on. So here you can see the first component is stakeholder interest. Now like I have said that stakeholder here means that the parties which have certain kind of interest or benefit from the organization, those are considered to be the stakeholders. Now what are the various types of stakeholders? Now here it is mentioned shareholders are one type of stakeholders, management is one type of stakeholder, employee groups, government, community, unions. These are the various stakeholders which have certain kind of interest in the benefit, in the success of the organization. Now they are also people, they are also part of, they are not part of the workforce of the organization, but they are also certain kind of people who needs to be satisfied by the organization so that their interest can be fulfilled. So as an organization, they can not only focus on their benefit only, they have to also focus on the stakeholders' interest. Okay. So the second component here, it is mentioned the situational factors. Now situational factors here includes workforce characteristics, business strategy and condition, management philosophy, labor market, union, task technology, law and societal values. Now these situational factors has major influence on human resource management. Now here in this you can see that the situational factor here means what kind of situation actually affect human resource management. Like I said, human resource management is affected by the various external factors, external situation, because of which it also influences the strategy they prepare and the policies they prepare. So these external forces have major influence on the preparation of strategies and policies, because whenever there is a different kind of law introduced by the government, the organization needs to change its strategies and policies so that they can survive in the market. So these are the situational factors, like mentioned, workforce characteristics means what are the features of the workforce, how it is supposed to be maintained, what kind of people we have in the organization, the business strategy and condition, what kind of strategy regarding the business we have. We need to incorporate, or we can see that we need to match our business strategy with the HR strategy so that benefits can be obtained. Then there is philosophy of management. What are the principles, values and beliefs of the management? Union, labor market, rules and regulations regarding the labor market, different types of technology. These are the law and societal values. These are the different, we can say that these are the different situational factors which have major influence over the operations and executions of even preparation of HR policies and strategies. Now the third point that you are seeing here, the third point that you are seeing here is that HRM policy choices. So how an organization can actually create HR policies or HRM policies? What are the things they need to consider while preparing HRM policy? The first point here, it says that employee influence. What kind of influence it would have on the employees, like whether it is positive or negative. Now here we have to also consider the benefit of the employees, because benefit of the employees are very important. So here employee influence includes like we can say to what extent, what kind of responsibilities they have, whether they are delegated those kind of responsibilities. Now here employee influence actually clearly states that the level of responsibility they have, the level of power and authority they have, all those things must be considered while creating HRM policy. Next one is human resource flow. The flow of human resource within the organization, from like we can say that from the selection process, training, promotion, transfer, how human resource flow move within an organization, that needs to be considered while preparing HRM policy. Third one is reward system. Reward system is salary structure, wage structure, what kind of bonuses are provided to the employees. So these things must be considered before or while preparing the HRM policy. Now the last point here says that work system. Work system here means the designing of jobs, designing of what kind of responsibilities and duties one job must have. That is work system, means different types of job, the hierarchy of job, how one job is dependent upon another, it needs to be properly coordinated. That is the work system. So whenever organization needs to make some kind of HRM policies, before choosing any kind of HRM policy, they need to consider these four factors in order to make proper HRM policy, which is going to benefit the organization as well as the employees. Now the third aspect that you're seeing, that HR outcomes. Now these are the outcomes which depend upon HR policies and policy choices, because whenever a policy is created, it has certain kind of consequence. Now these consequences are the HR outcomes. Now these consequences are expected by the organization. What kind of result they want to obtain, on basis of that they create HR policy. So every HR policy has certain kind of outcome. Now there are 4 types of outcome which are mentioned under this category. First one is commitment. So whenever we are creating a policy, it needs to lead to an outcome which increases the commitment of the employees towards the organization, towards the betterment and towards better performance within the organization. So that commitment level can only be increased if HR policies are created by keeping in mind the benefit of human resource management. Now the next point here says the competence or the competency. Competency here means that in order to increase the capability of the employees, they need to provide various training and development program that will increase the competency of the employees, which will lead to better performance, dedicated performance of the employees. The third one is congruence. Congruence means there needs to be certain kind of trust between the management and the employees, because without any kind of mutual trust, now, if an organization has mutual trust between employees and the management, what kind of effect it will have? It will lead to, if there is a high level of congruence between employees and management, it will lead to a stress-free environment, a healthy working environment where people will work in a dedicated way, in a committed way. And it will also result in the better performance, improved performance of the employees, which will ultimately help the organization to achieve its objectives. Now, low congruence means a lot of stress, lot of workload, frustration in the work that will be reflected in the performance of the employees. So low kind of congruence leads to low level of performance from the employee side. Now the third one is cost effectiveness. Now what does cost effectiveness mean here? Now cost effectiveness has 2 sides, means the amount of money spent on the employees and workers and what kind of benefit the organization actually receives from the employees. Like a lot of amount of money is spent on selection, on the training of employees, creating proper environment, different kinds of benefits are provided to the employees. So these are the costs which are incurred by the organization to the employees. Now the benefits that they're supposed to get in terms of the performance of the employees, in terms of commitment, in terms of increase in competency, or we can say increase in the capabilities of the employees, and also increase in mutual trust between management and the employees. So that will lead to cost effectiveness. How much amount of money an organization invests on human resource, that amount of money needs to be obtained by the organization in terms of better performance from the employee side. So these are the 4 HR outcomes which are entirely dependent upon the HRM policies, which is created by the HRM department, or we can say that which is created by the organization. Now let us discuss the 5th aspect or the 5th component of Harvard model, that is the long-term consequences. Now these HR policies, HR outcomes, even situational factors, stakeholders' interests, they have a long-term consequence. It simply means that whatever decision an organization takes regarding its workforce, regarding its human resource, leads to a certain long-term consequence. So the first element here is that individual well-being. Every organization needs to treat the employees as a part of the organization as well as a separate entity with different aspirations, with different desires and ambition. So they must provide all the facilities, all the opportunities which will help the individual to become successful in the career, which will help the individual in the long-term basis. So that is the individual well-being. The second one is organizational effectiveness. How an organization can be more effective? If the workforce within the organization is talented, efficient, works works in an efficient manner, and it also functions, or we can say that it has a major contribution towards the organization. Their commitment level is very high. They trust the organization, so that will lead to the effectiveness, that will increase the effectiveness of the organization. If an organization has efficient group of people, it will lead to the achievement of goals of the organization. Now these goals and objectives are very important, so that the organization can survive in the market and become successful. So the long-term consequence also includes the organizational effectiveness. Now the next one is social well-being. Now every organization is not only working to earn profit, to get a large market share, but it also has certain kind of contribution towards the society. Society well-being means creation of employment, doing certain kinds of CSR activities that will develop the society, that will develop the locality within which the organization is working, providing healthy products, better products to the consumers, so that it will lead to welfare of the society. So these are the 5 important components of Harvard model. Later on, another component was included, that is feedback. So now what is feedback? So feedback, we can say that whenever a particular, whatever policies are created, whatever strategies are created, they are executed, and a certain kind of result is also obtained. But we need some kind of feedback in order to know whether our whatever policy we have created, whatever outcomes we have achieved, whether it was successful or not. So here it says that the feedback here means that understanding the point of view of others, the stakeholders and other stakeholders like employees, management, government. So we need to get feedback so that we can again understand what kind of factors actually influence the preparation of HR policies and other. We can create a different set of policy because previous set of policies were not that effective. So these kind of feedback will provide information, important information to the organization to make necessary changes in the HR policies, what kind of outcomes they are expecting, and what kind of long-term consequence they are going to have on the 3 aspects, that is individual, organizational and societal. Okay. So these are the various components of Harvard model. Now let us discuss the advantages, and then I will explain the various disadvantages, or we can say the limitations of Harvard model. So let us discuss the advantages and disadvantages. So here are the advantages. So the first point, as you all can clearly see, that it recognizes interest of all the stakeholders. Now previously, most of the organization only used to consider the benefit of the organization, but they do not used to consider the benefit of all the stakeholders who obtain some kind of benefit from the company, who has certain level of interest in the attached with the organization. So keeping in mind the benefit of the stakeholder is a very important part of Harvard model, which is also considered one of the main advantage, because it focuses the benefit of all the stakeholders which are associated with the organization, which are associated with the workforce of the organization. They can be employees, they can be management, government, organizations, everyone. Okay, so that is the first advantage of Harvard model. The second advantage, as you all can clearly see, it balances the interest of owners and the employees. Now owners, they have different motives. They want profit, they want the organization to become successful, to diversify, to expand. But employees also have different motives. They want to become successful in the career. They want the success of the organization, but they also want individual success. So here in this aspect, in this model, it actually balances the interest of the employees and the owners, so that both the parties can be benefited and both the parties can become, or both the parties can actually be satisfied with the operations and success of the organization. The third advantage, as you all can see, that it has widened the context of HRM. Now, what is the context of HRM? Here it means that whatever elements used to be considered in the human resource management, they have included more and more, like HR policies, HR strategies. They also are very important part of the context of the human resource management. Now, the next one, next advantage here, it says that it acknowledges the contextual influence of management. Contextual influence means management plays a major role in creation of those HR policies, those HR strategies, which not only helps the organization, but at the same time, it is also very much beneficial to the employees and to the other stakeholders. So that is another advantage of Harvard model. Now let us discuss the last advantage of the Harvard model, that it emphasizes on strategic choices. Here it says that whatever choice an organization whatever choice an organization makes has certain kind of, we can say, consequence. That consequence needs to be kept in mind so that they can make better choices for the organization as well as for the employees. Now let us discuss the limitations or disadvantages of Harvard model. Now the first disadvantage, it clearly says that it is very difficult to satisfy the interest of all the stakeholders. Now there are so many stakeholders. If we try to satisfy one stakeholder, it may lead to adverse situation, or it may actually have an adverse effect on other stakeholders. Because, for example, if we decide to make our employees satisfied, that will by increasing their salary, by increasing their pay scale, that will lead to dissatisfaction of the management and owners, because more amount of profit will be paid to the employees in the form of salary. So that will dissatisfy the management. If the organization focuses on cost cutting, reducing the cost of production by using such materials which are very cheap, but not that kind of bad, but still have certain kind of bad influence on the consumers, so that will dissatisfy the consumers, but it will make the management and the owners satisfied. So it is extremely difficult to balance or to satisfy the interest of all the stakeholders who have want the organization to be successful, but at the same time they also want themselves to get some kind of benefit. So it is very difficult to satisfy the interest of all the stakeholders. Now the next point says that it completely ignores the hard HRM approach. Now as I haven't mentioned about hard HRM and soft HRM, let me just give a brief explanation of it. Now hard HRM actually focuses on treating employees to an optimum and a maximum extent. It does not consider human resource as an asset. That is the hard HRM approach. Soft one is giving that kind of importance which actually human resource deserve, treating the human resource as an asset of the organization. But in hard HRM, it focuses on proper utilization of human resources, but it also does not consider the benefit and the betterment of human resource. So here it says that it completely ignores the hard HRM approach. Now we cannot say that every negative aspect is a part of hard HRM approach. There are certain positive. So this model also ignores that positive side of hard HRM approach. That is why it is considered to be one of the disadvantage of Harvard model. Now the last disadvantage of Harvard model is it leads to poor productivity. Now if the organization always focuses on satisfaction of the stakeholders, it will not be so strict towards the production, it will not be strict towards cost effectiveness. So it reduces the productivity or the quality of product created by the organization. So the productivity actually suffers if an organization uses this Harvard HRM model. Okay. So this is Harvard HRM model. What are the components? What are the advantages and disadvantages? In the next session, I'm going to explain this model, the Michigan model, and what are the various components and what are the how it actually processes its limitations. So in the next session, I'm going to explain the Michigan model. Okay, so that's it for today. We are going to discuss Michigan model and as well as another model, that is guest model, in the next session. So that's it for today. Thank you.